Welcome back to another episode of Head to Head. That's my table behind Josh.
It is.
He's taking it.
This table used to belong to Matt Morello, and
then when
I took it for something.
He borrowed it because him and Johnny didn't have a table. And then when Johnny went to move out, I said, "What happened to my table?" And he's like, "Oh, Sideshow just took it." And then
I did say, "Matt, do you want this table?" And I think at some point you were like, "Nah, I don't want the table."
Nah, I have zero use for that table. It looks like though he's found a nice home.
Yeah,
and you know who's found a nice home, Josh?
Who?
Decay. Know who else?
Who else?
Doha.
Really? Doha? Like the caster?
Doha, yeah. I love that. Are they a top 5 DPS duo in the league? I'll let you start.
Okay, I think that, all right, anytime that people bring up this like top 5 thing, it's the same shit that like Reinforce got ripped for with Void. Do you remember this whole discussion last year, Matt, about Johnny tweeted that he doesn't think Void's a top 5 off tank?
Do you want me to give you my real answer or fake answer?
Go on, what's your real answer?
I don't remember that shit at all.
That still haunts Reinforced to this day. People still at him about that.
Because Johnny went through a period where he was like, well, I need to make hot takes. So he just unloaded like fucking 50 shitty opinions. And then now he's like, oh my God, why did I do that? like, and
yeah, but I don't think that was as bad as it seems, because people use top 5 in a very vague way. What they mean by top 5 is just really good. But when you actually list out, like if you listed out all the off tanks from last year,
the 5,
then if they're 6th place, you can't say that you think they're top 5. You have to say that they're top 6 or top 10 or whatever the fuck you want to say.
But that would be 5 comes before 6. Yeah.
I know it sounds obvious, Matt, but it happens a lot on Reddit. People are saying like, oh, Decay and Doha, they must be like a top 3 DPS duo, and it's like, right, by saying that, you're not just complimenting Decay and Doha, you are actively saying that other DPS duos are worse than them. Like, there is, if you want to use a ranking, a list, and call people 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which the model itself has issues, then you have to be able to say that some people are worse than others. And if you say that Decay and Doha are top 5, that means you only think there's 4 better DPS duos in the league better than them. That is literally what that means.
It's so easy as well for, like, casters and just in the heat of the moment on broadcast to say somebody's top 5 or something.
Yeah.
And then eventually I think it was Thor, the clip is like, oh, this guy's a great player, he's like, all of a sudden everybody's great and nobody's actually fucking great anymore. What do you think? What's your gut on it?
My gut on it is there's a very good chance that Doha and Decay are top 5, but my brain says, from doing this in the past before, where I've actively challenged like people's notions of who's top 5, who's whatever. I like to make lists, Matt. At the beginning of the season, I make lists of who I think is like the top I normally group DPS duos together because otherwise it's just fucking hundreds of DPS players and like tank lines and support lines and stuff. And I like to list them so that I have a good idea in my head of who I think is actually bottom 5 and who I think is middle of the pack, this kind of stuff. My brain from doing this before in the past says that probably if you actually wrote out the list, most people would not have Doha and Decay as a top 5 DPS duo. Because in order to say that that was true, you'd take people like Shock, Shanghai, New York with Haxal, maybe even a Hangzhou, these kind of people, and you would end up Philly, for example, as well. And we can go through it in a bit more depth, but just as an overview, my instinct is that you would end up having to rate a lot of those DPS lines higher than the Dallas Fuels.
I'm listing them out now.
Also, before we even get into this, Matt, before we even get into the listing process, the question that always gets put up here is DPS duo. But most teams don't have DPS duos. In fact, it is a bad thing for Dallas Fuel that they only have Decay and Doha that they field in every game.
Well,
like, yes, they do
AKM.
have... Yeah, they have AKM, but what the fuck is he going to be fielded for over Decay, really? Like, maybe McCree. No, maybe Soldier. Like, a Soldier is genuinely the only time that I could see him being fielded over Decay, unless you have a double hit scan meta. But most of the time, you are going to be fielding Decay and Doha. Now, that isn't the situation with a team like Shanghai, for example, because yeah, they normally run Fleder and Lip, but they also have DM and Ding and Dia, okay, as well. But a lot of these other teams in the league have 3, 4, sometimes even 5 DPS players. And so it becomes like a question of, do you literally mean you can only pick 2 players per team? Or do you mean the whole DPS squad for a team?
I think you pick only 2 players per team.
That makes it much more skewed towards Dallas, right? Because some teams have like 3 DPS players that they rotate, and that's how they get over being inflexible individually.
Right.
But if you limit it to just a duo,
you just take the best duo of that team.
And that, I think, is a fair thing. You just have to realize at the beginning that that's the question you're asking. So, you're not asking which team has the best DPS. You're asking which are the best DPS duos, and that is a different question.
I think right now they do.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because some of the DPS duos that we would probably put above them, we haven't seen. Like,
sure.
Like the 3 that kind of stood out to me that we haven't seen yet. Nene and Hacksaw, Godsby and Architect, and Exy and Sparkle. We haven't seen those 3 duos yet, which are 3 of like the powerhouse duos potentially.
Sure.
But we haven't seen them play.
Sure.
We have no clue. I mean, we've done episodes about Architect and Hacksaw where we've gone back and forth. Or like, can they even be the difference makers that they need to for these teams? Where the damage dealers for Dallas have proved to be able to be the difference makers for this team. And then off the top of my head, I kind of rattled out some other ones. Fleta and Lip. You have Prophet and Fitz. Carpe and Ivy, I assume. I don't know who, or Hisu, whoever you wanted to. Yaki and BQB, and then Ans and Rascal.
Yeah. So by the way, there you've named 5 DPS duos, right?
Right. They would just have to be better than 1 or 2 of them. Do I think they can be? Do I think they are better potentially than Ans and Rascal? I think potentially yes. I think Ans we haven't seen like a ton. Like I worry about that duo in other types of metas. They've been pretty fortunate so far to be able to get away with Widowmaker and McCree and Ashe so constantly.
Sure.
Not really anything like super Tracer heavy right now.
Yeah, Ants just played a tiny bit of Tracer, and he's played it on stream before as well. But I would imagine that Decay would poo-poo on him if there was actually a Tracer meta. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but Decay is incredible.
And then I think you can make an argument that they're better than Prophet and Fitz. I haven't been overly impressed with Prophet so far this season. I think his echo's been lackluster. Ooh. But I think you can make the argument that they're a better duo. Let's put it this way. If Doha and Decay were playing for Seoul Dynasty right now, would they be a better team? If you had a lineup of Gesture, Marvel, Doha, Decay, Badoshin, and Toby, is that a better team than what they currently are? Today, right now.
It's kind of crazy because Decay has just been so good.
He's been a monster.
He's been monstrously good to the point where it's hard to argue that anybody is better than Decay right now. Like, in his specific role, the only people that you can really argue are like Carpe, because he's been putting up bonkers numbers. And he's also just been carrying a team that's at the top level. And Fleder has also been really, really good in that role, but he's more of like a team player rather than an individual carry. And Yaki. Like, really, it's Carpe and Yaki, who play the same kind of heroes who you could argue are better, or at least comparable to Decay. But Decay's just had such a monstrous year.
Bro, like, the things he does is, like, just solo, like, just fucking murdering people. I mean, the guy is an absolute psycho.
Yeah.
Like, just watching him play is so sick. Like, where I feel like you'd have to say, like, he's an upgrade almost. Like, dude, he... right now, he's sitting at, obviously, stats, like, just kind of whatever the fuck. But to give you an idea of where these 2 players at, or, like, on their team... final blows for 10 minutes. Decay sits at 9 final blows for 10 minutes. Doha sits at 7.1. The next highest who actually plays is Gamsu at 4.9.
Yeah. This team is like massively hard carried by their DPS, and that's
yeah. I mean, dude, hero damage at 10 minutes. Get this. Decay is at 8,800 per 10 minutes in terms of damage. The next highest is Note at basically 7,600. Like, Decay is like the highest on his team in damage per 10 minutes by over 1,200 damage. Yeah. like it's actually just kind of fucking crazy. Like,
and I do think that there are better flex DPS players than Doha in the league, but Decay just kind of, even within, and that's not to say that Doha has been bad. Doha has been really, really good, but even within this DPS duo, when you're weighing it up against other duos, Decay is carrying most of that weight.
I mean, you can even make a argument like that it is as strong or stronger than like a Carpe and EQO.
I mean, we've only seen EQO
on the same level.
Yeah, you can make an argument that it's on the same kind of level.
That's how good I think Decay's been.
I think that Carpe has been on a similar kind of level to Decay, but Ivy has been, in my opinion, quite a bit better than Doha. And so
who would you say is 100% better then?
I would say Carpe and Ivy are better than Decay and Doha.
I can say that.
I would just lock that in straight up. Yep. It's the Philadelphia Fusion. Then I think that the Shanghai, Fleder and Lip have been better than Decay and Doha. Yeah. And okay, maybe not in terms of like solo carry performances, but that's because the rest of the Shanghai Dragons is so goddamn good as well. Yeah. And they're fantastically coordinated. Yeah, they've been amazing. I would make an argument for, and this I think is where it starts to become a little bit muddy, but I would say that Yaki and BQB have played better than Decay and Doha. I think that BQB, like the Yaki BQB is much more of an, it's more of an even spread. Yaki's been able to do monstrous things on the Tracer and the Echo so far this season. There's a little bit of recency bias there, but there also is a bit of recency bias with the Dallas Decay stuff as well, because that only really started when Dallas played against the Valiant. So,
I mean,
we're talking the same kind of time frames.
I could agree with you there. I think the Yaki and BQB, I mean, they're in your top 5, right?
Sure.
I mean, there's some of these duos that I would argue are not in your top 5. I don't think that there's one that's one that I would kind of like hold the line on.
And then there's, after that, right? So we've locked 3 DPS duos in. That's
it's a toss-up.
That's our top 3. And so the question now, if Decay and Doha are a top 5 DPS duo, there can only be one more DPS duo that's better than them in the entire league. Now, we've already excluded, like you said at the beginning, Architect and Godspeed, Nene Haxel, Xe Sparkle, because we haven't seen them play, even though they could be mental, like really, really good.
And you wouldn't put any of those like other duos that we've already seen from those teams on there.
Yeah, like Godspeed Adora wouldn't make it into the top. You wouldn't put
Libero wouldn't make it.
No, I don't think so. And like Soon and Nico.
Wouldn't make it.
No. So for me, it comes down to these 3 teams. It comes down to Shock with Ants and Rascal, Seoul with Prophet and Fitz, and Atlanta with Erster and Edison.
Well, we haven't seen Ursa and Edison play. It's really been Edison and Baby Bay.
Well, it has been recently, but at the beginning when Atlanta looked really good, I would argue that they played their best when they were playing with Erster. And Erster was normally playing alongside, I think it was Baby Bay at the time, actually. Let me just check. Weeks like 4 and 5, when they were playing, it was Baby Bay. And, no, they did play Erster and Edison as well in the Boston Uprising game. But, yeah, they've been all over the place, honestly, the Atlanta Reign. But I do think that this DPS line is very, very talented for that team. And honestly, Atlanta are one of the teams that you nerf most by trying to pare it down to a duo. Yeah. Same with a bunch of these teams.
But wouldn't you put like the Ursa Edison combination into like with Xe and Sparkle and Nene and Haxall with duos we haven't just seen enough of?
Yeah, I think that's a fair argument. I think Ursa and Edison together have mainly only played like 2 matches. It might only even be 1 match that they have played fully together. So yeah, I'm happy to exclude Erster Edison, and I don't think that there's another DPS line from Atlanta that I would really count. Like, I know that the comments section are going to be full of some of these other guys. Like, you could make a bit of an argument maybe for Shax and KSP, but only when they're on very specific roles. Yeah. I don't think that they've done enough to be considered at the top kind of level.
We'll get some runaway people saying Stitch and Somansu or something like that.
Yeah, get the fuck out, honestly. Yeah. Like, the Gladiators, I don't think factor into this. I don't think, even though I'm a Guangzhou stan, I wouldn't put Nero plus someone else in there, because Happy is very specifically like Widowmaker, McCree, Tracer, and Eileen is like Widowmaker, Doomfist, and I don't really think that either of those 2 players are well-rounded enough or have seen enough playtime with Nero.
There's nobody else really outside the ones we listed.
I think Nero's nutty. I think he's really, really good, but I don't think that he's up there. The Chengdu, like some Chinese fans might put Leave up there with like Leave and Jinmu or something, but I don't think that they've really lived up to the kind of hype that they had coming into the league.
The Boston fan may put Jerry and Color Hex.
Well, they can keep smoking whatever they're smoking. That's all I have to say about them. Glister has been amazing, but I don't think that London have done enough with Glister and somebody else to be top 5. So,
bro, you can make an argument that one of Philly's backup DPS duos would be like a starter on half of the other teams in the league.
Yeah, definitely. I think you actually could make an argument for Hisu and EQO if they had played more.
Yeah, they'd be a starting duo.
But basically what it comes down to then is, for us, Prophet and Fitz and Ants and Rascal.
Yeah.
I think
they have to be just better than 1.
Yeah, and you know what? Having gone through it, I agree with you that Decay and Doha are probably better than Ants and Rascal so far this year. Even though Ants has had some pop-off moments, I don't think there's anyone out there arguing that Ants has been the same level as Decay consistently so far this season. He's made more mistakes and he's had more times where he hasn't played.
I've seen them play Striker, and Striker played well, and we've seen a considerable run. Striker Rascal would be a very strong argument, because Striker's Tracer and shit has been nuts, but we haven't seen him play at all. Like, the fact that you haven't played Striker and you've been playing like Widowmaker and other types of things, I mean, to me, kind of speaks to like where his level of play is probably at right now.
Yeah. Ants was ridiculous when he was playing the McCree earlier on, though, as well. Like, he was bonkers good at the McCree. He is at least as good as Decay is on McCree, I think. But Ants makes
Rascal's better than Doha.
Yeah, I would. So maybe they are a better DPS duo on the Shock than the Dallas Fuel, but I think that's really, really close. And it, broadly speaking, I think what it comes down to is, if you look towards the second half of the season, do you think that the Shock can get away with running Ants at the same kind of level? I don't know.
So, well, I kind of go back to this. If you swapped DPS duos and Doha and Decay were playing for the Shock and Ants and Rascal were playing for the Fuel, would the Fuel still be in the position they're in, and would the Shock be hurting?
I think both teams get worse there, weirdly.
Maybe. I think you lose a lot with Rascal on the, not on the Shock.
I think you lose a lot with Rascal not being on the Shock. He's like this new leadership figure for them. He is really good on the Mei, but basically on whatever hero they need him to play. And you also don't have this just ridiculous individual carry performance from Decay on the Fuel. So maybe the Fuel benefit from that, but I think the Shock definitely get worse. And isn't that an argument at the end of the day for Ants and Rascal being better than Decay and Doha? I mean, it's muddy. I'm not gonna take that away from it. It's very close.
I think it's just more of like the intangibles that Rascal brings to the Shock is like important.
Sure.
It's not like, I think play wise, I think it would be a bit of a dip for the Fuel, but I think the Shock, what they would lose is in terms of like leadership and shit that you don't really kind of question with damage dealers.
What about Prophet and Fitz then? Let's focus in on Prophet and Fitz for the Soul Dynasty. I think you can make a strong
argument that Decay and Doha and the Soul Dynasty would be a fucking crazy duo compared to Prophet and Fitz. I think Prophet right now, like, I really need to see him bounce back in the second half of the year. I want to see him play good.
He's had some beastly performances when he hasn't been on the Echo. Like in the finals, his Tracer was lights out. It was so good. But the problem with him is that he just doesn't look that good when he's on the Echo, and the team doesn't seem to understand how to play around the Echo. But he's also been amazing when he's been on the Mei. Like maybe
I'm being too hard on him because of what we've seen from him in the past. Like he was so consistently just nuts.
Yeah, it's a very different DPS line, Prophet and Fitz, because Prophet has that amazing Tracer that you want from Decay, but he doesn't have the Widow and the McCree. That's Fitz's job, and Fitz has been really good on Widowmaker. But maybe not quite at that Decay level. But he's also shown really good Hanzo gameplay, like incredibly good Hanzo gameplay. And I think the Prophet covers more of like the Mei and the other heroes than Doha does. Like I think the Prophet's a better flex DPS than Doha is in terms of like his Mei. If you wanted him to play the Genji, when he plays like the if you wanted to play him on like a, I don't know, like I guess he would be worse at the Doomfist, but like the Pharah perhaps, and those kind of things. But mainly like Prophet takes up that Tracer role away from Decay and kind of frees Fitz up to play other stuff. I prefer Prophet and Fitz so far this year because I think the Mei player's been better from them. The Tracer player's been pretty equivalent, and Fitz has had some really good performances.
Yeah, maybe Decay's like amazingness doesn't carry them past to this duo. Would I still say it's better than Once and Rascal? I probably would say my gut says yes.
And that's what it comes down to, right? I think Decay and Doha are certainly somewhere between the 4th and the 6th best DPS duo in the league.
Well, if some of these other duos come online and they're good, this list is a complete different.
Yes, absolutely. If Architect and Godsby ends up working out well, then they could
Nene and Hacksaw.
Yeah, or Exy and Sparkle.
Sparkle, right.
All three of those DPS duos have the potential to be actually number one. Like, all three of them have the potential to be number one DPS duos. They can't all be number one, and they won't be, probably, but they're gonna break this list up a lot.
Like, the only duo I would feel comfortable probably saying that could easily fit into that 3, if, like, those 3 kind of pan out with the expectations that have, I still think Fleta and Lip are up there.
Sure. I think the consistency that Carpe has had, just his like raw KD and what he's been able to spit out, these guys' numbers have just been phenomenal.
And it's every year, bro. Yep. It's not even like he had last year was a down year and he still had like crazy numbers. He didn't even get to play DPS the whole fucking year.
Yeah.
I mean, season 1, the guy was. I mean, I think I voted for him second in MVP, or I maybe for season
in the first
1.
Year? Yeah.
And I think I was even trying to make an argument that he should be the MVP. But
yeah, I know that he was Puckett's choice for MVP as well. He was very impressed with Carpe. Yeah, I think that Carpe, Ivy, and then you have like Fleta and Lip, and then Decay and Doha. Honestly, you could try and make an argument with just how beastly Decay has been playing. They could be anyway from 3rd to 6th.
My gut tells me right now, at the current moment, they are like the 5th best duo.
Yeah.
Now, does that hold for the rest of the year? I don't know. I mean, those 3 duos that we left out have a ton of potential. I also think we may have not seen the potential of Once yet. That if like we see Ons start to play other different heroes, and we see him play like a Tracer beastly, like that duo really skyrockets up. But I think right now you have to give it to them, and I say give it to them. Really, Decay has been so monstrous, and Doha has been good. But I mean, it's just like the combination of the 2, right?
Yeah.
Where I feel like he's been so game changing.
The other part to this as well, though, is that Decay has to keep up these kind of performances. And they're not the same level of performances as these other guys. Like, they are unworldly performances in order to keep him at this kind of contention. Because if he had normal games, Dallas would lose, and he would end up taking like a larger hit for it.
If he doesn't play well, we ain't talking about the Dallas Fuel anymore. Yeah. I mean, just because they're they're going right down. I feel like that's how important he's been to this team.
Yeah,
he's been every game they win, like you're just kind of like, oh my god, Decay just popped off, and I think it's kind of it's a little bit of something with Carpe that I think we've kind of underappreciated. It's just how consistent he is from game to game. And like Carpe makes it look easy, right? Where like it's fucking hard to be a top damage dealer in the league. Look at this list. How many people have been here for all 3 seasons? Just Carpe. Out of all the duos we just listed, Carpe is the only one who's been here since season 1.
I mean, Rascal went in and out.
In and out.
Fleta? Wasn't Fleta here since the beginning? Yeah, he was in season 1.
Fleta Soul Dynasty season 1. Yeah, so Fleta and Carpe.
And Prophet. He's been around since the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Prophet with London as well. So
yeah, so the 3 of them. Carpe, Fleta, Prophet, and Decay. Carpe, Fleta, and Prophet.
Did Architect come in the end of season 1?
Yes, I don't think he was there right at the beginning of season 1.
But he played like a handful of games season 1 towards the end.
Yeah, he joined the Shock late on.
Season.
I think like stage 3 or 4.
So what? You have 3 of the players on this list that were like full-time players in season 1.
Yep.
Like
Godspeed, but he isn't really like. Yeah, he's only starting to get into contention.
Think about how many players like that just turnover in terms of the damage dealers.
Yep.
Right? Like it's actually just crazy. And then the fact that Carpe and Fleta are still like at the top is just I feel like we've kind of gotten so used to them being great that it's almost not as appreciated as it really should be, like how sick these guys are.
Yeah, definitely true.
Because these young kids just come up and they just slam some G Fuel, start fucking clicking heads. They got to keep up. Let us know whether you're a Dallas Fuel fan or not. Well, I mean, most likely a lot of you are, because you just bandwagon. Everybody's a Dallas Fuel fan or a Houston Outlaws fan. So don't let us know if you are. But let us know what you think about our top 5 DPS duo. Did we get it right? Did we not get it right? Do you think that Doha and Decay are? Because it seems like we both think right now at the current moment of recording of this video.
I think they're 6th, mate. I think they're 6th.
Ooh, well, let us know if you think that they're 6th or 5th. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll be back with more head-to-heads soon.